Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'm going to be repotting my sacred lotus plant here. So I've done a previous video about this lotus plant. I grew it from seed a few weeks ago. You can find my video about that. But basically it's struggling a bit now. It desperately needs a new pot, so I'm going to repot it into a much larger pot. So what I'll do now is I'll just tidy it up a bit and then explain why this is starting to struggle and why it really needs to be repotted. So I'll just go ahead and take off all these dead leaves. So this was originally growing in water. It did okay, but then when I put it in this soil here, it did much better as it had the nutrients that it needed. But now it's really starting to struggle because it's becoming quite pot bound. So I'll take this out now and show you the problem I'm having. So you can see here the top section of the soil, there isn't really a whole lot of roots. And in the bottom section, we've got lots of rhizomes and roots spinning around, and it's trying to find new places to grow. It's trying to send up new shoots, but the problem is they're all kind of twisted, congested, they can't get out, so a lot of these shoots that are running around the bottom aren't really getting up to the top and the leaves aren't developing properly. So what I really need to do is repot this in a new plant pot and have it quite high up so the roots can grow down. It does seem that it wants to grow its roots deeper. It probably thinks it's too shallow at the moment and it needs to have a deeper pot, which it definitely does, as this grows in boggy areas with very deep soils. Basically grows in waterlogged ponds, so it needs a deep pot and plenty of space to grow in. So I'll just go ahead and show you the pot I'm going to be using for this one. So this is the pot that I'll be using. As you can see, it's not the nicest of pots. It was originally a nice one, but the sun's bleached it and it's kind of stained it, so it's not a very nice looking pot. But the reason I'm using this one is it doesn't have any drainage holes, so I often have plants in this outside but they get too waterlogged. So this is perfect for this instance, because I want a waterlogged container. Because the sacred lotus does grow in ponds, it needs really wet soil, and what I will have is I'll have a layer of water above the soil level, so that's why I need a pot like this, so that it doesn't have any water seeping out of the pot. As you can see, this pot is vastly bigger than the existing one, and this should really help the plant. It should grow much better once it gets the root space it needs. So when it comes to compost, I've made up my own mix of compost here. So it's mainly a loam based compost. When it comes to sacred lotus, they do best in a rich loamy soil, basically what you'd expect deposited by rivers and lakes. So maybe a bit of clay, a bit of silt, that kind of stuff. You don't want anything high in organic matter. If there's too much organic matter, it can start rotting. It doesn't smell nice when it's underwater rotting away, and it will create growing environments which aren't very favourable for plants. So what I've done here is I've got a soil-based compost which is rich in loam. I've added a tiny bit of multi-purpose compost just to add some organic matter and some more nutrients, but I haven't added much at all. Now it was a very heavy mix, so I've also added some perlite just to loosen it up. Now this can survive in waterlogged soil with low oxygen levels, that's not the problem, but I didn't want the soil to get too compacted and the roots to struggle to grow through. Now they should be able to grow through compacted soil, as they're going to be used to quite wet, sludgy soil where they grow, but I just wanted to have it a little bit looser to make sure that the roots are going to have no problem growing through at all. So I'm going to go ahead and repot this now. So first of all, I'm just going to fill up the bottom of the pot with soil. And then I'm just going to create a hollow for the sacred lotus to go into. And I'm going to be planting it quite high up because these roots look like they want to continue to go downwards, so these will go down and spread throughout the whole container. I do want to have the water level a bit higher than it was before. So previously in this, the water level was only just above the soil. I like the water level probably about 4 or 5 centimeters at least above the soil with this one. So I'm just going to be planting it slightly deeper than it was in its original pot, but there's going to be loads of space underneath it for those rhizomes to grow down. Now I'm also going to loosen some of these rhizomes, as long as I'm careful and don't snap them, just to give them a little bit of a helping hand, because they've been spiraling around so badly previously. I really want to make sure that they're loosened a bit. It's going to be a bit easier for them to grow, but I definitely want to be careful, as I don't want to snap any of these, as that will weaken the plant. So just loosen them a bit, and then I'll pot them in now that they're a little bit looser. And then I'm just going to fill up with a bit more soil around the outside. So that's all now planted up. Now you'll notice the soil level is maybe a little bit higher than I wanted, but what's going to happen is when I water this, that soil should sink down, and over the next few weeks the soil will continue to compact further. When the soil is waterlogged, it's quite easy for it to compact, so you'll notice the soil level will go down, the plant will go down in height as well, but what it will do is start sending up some longer stems to combat the deeper water. So that's the water now soaking in and the soil is starting to compact. You can see that actually dropped quite a lot. That's the surface of the water there, but the soil's dropped probably about 5-10 centimeters since I first put it in. And I'm just going to keep topping up with water as the soil goes down and the water level goes down until it's fully saturated. You can see there's lots of bubbles. They've been coming up for the last 5 minutes or so, so it's still saturating the soil. So this should do much better in this environment. It's got much bigger space for it to grow. Its roots are going to do much better. It's also got a slightly better soil mix, which should also help. Now you've noticed a lot of these leaves are kind of going brown on the edges. Part of the reason for that is where this was growing previously. So I have this on a sunny south facing window, which is ideal because it does like high light levels and it likes to be warm. It was a nice warm location, around 20 degrees, 24 degrees. But the problem was it was inside my house, so it was low humidity. Humidity was about 40 to 60%. And because sacred lotus grows in ponds and in tropical areas with high humidity anyway, it likes a very high humidity. So that's part of the reason these leaves have suffered a little bit. They're starting to dry out on the edges. So what I'll be doing with this now is I'll be putting it into my conservatory. My conservatory gets up to 30 to 40 degrees Celsius in the day if it's sunny, and it goes down to about 18 degrees at night time. So it is quite similar to its tropical home where this likes to grow. And the humidity is much higher. It's about 90% when it's cooler at night, and it's around 50 to 60% when it's hot during the day. So much higher humidity, much more in keeping with the humidity levels and temperatures that this likes. So I'm expecting a lot of rapid growth from this. We should see a lot of new leaves come up. The first set of leaves that come up won't be much bigger because it hasn't got its roots established, but once it gets its roots established, in about a month's time I should expect much larger leaves, and they should all be having much stronger stems as well. We'll start to get more of the aerial leaves that come out of the water instead of ones that float on the surface. These ones at the moment are kind of somewhere in between. They're a bit like the leaves that float on the surface, but they're just slightly thicker stems, so they are holding up, but you can see they're quite floppy. But we should expect some much thicker, stronger stems soon. So that's all for this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an update at the end of the year and show you how the sacred lotus has done in my conservatory throughout the year, and then I'll be trying to overwinter it and bring it back for next year.